Production support for InFocus is provided by Smithville, a locally owned business serving central and southern Indiana since 1922. With residential business internet, voice, and security services. Smithville, local pride, global technology. Information at smithville.net. The Herald Times featuring Hotline, every weekday where reporter Marcy Krebs answers your questions about local oddities and curiosities. Online at heraldtimes.com. Hoosier Energy, providing electricity for central and southern Indiana electric cooperatives and their member customers. Information at hepn.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Today, trail systems are doing more than just giving Hoosiers a place to walk or ride their bike. They're connecting community destinations, schools, recreation facilities, and cultural and historical sites. But not every community has the desire or the money to improve its trails. Tonight, we'll discuss trail systems across South Central Indiana and the impact they have on local economies as we put trails in focus. And thanks for joining us for this edition of In Focus. I'm Stan Jastrzebski. If you have questions for one of our studio experts during tonight's program, please email them to us at infocus@indiana.edu, or you can always go to our website, indianapublicmedia.org/infocus, and leave comments there. Well, some Hoosiers commute to work in their cars or in buses. Some communities are suggesting that more of their residents use their feet or their bicycles. As WTIU's Alex Roy reports, trail travel is becoming an increasingly attractive option, but they are not popping up everywhere.
Mike Kutzko gets a lot of exercise as a Columbus firefighter, but it wasn't until he started commuting to work every day, year-round via bicycle, that he really noticed a difference in his health.
I've felt so much better since I've been riding, and I've been riding here consistently for probably the last 4 or 5 years. Hardly ever get sick anymore, other than, you know, your lucky Indiana seasonal allergies.
The People's Pathway is a paved trail that circles the city of Columbus. The first parts of the path were built in 1983 after a group of community members pressed local government for its creation.
I always refer to it as kind of the I-465 of people trails. So that's sort of the goal, is to have a loop so that, and feeders that come into that loop, similar to what you'd see around Indianapolis with the highway, so that no matter where you are in the county or even outside the county, you can link into our people trail system and get anywhere in Columbus.
For many Hoosiers, though, a quick commute on a local trail isn't a viable option.
For a city the size of ours to have almost 20 miles of people trails in a community is very unusual. You have to go up to Indianapolis to the Monon Trail to see a trail system that's comparable to ours.
Though funded mostly by state and federal grants, the city was required to provide a local match.
This section of trail, for instance, the Hog Creek Trail, was about a $1 million operation. Our share of it was $250,000, which we raised locally through various means, various donations, a big fundraising campaign as well.
In Bloomington, the Parks Foundation has helped raise large amounts of money to beautify the Beeline Trail and has accepted planters, benches, picnic tables, and artwork as donations.
That is about, for the Beeline, about $100,000 has come in to enhance this trail and make it even better for the benefit of the community.
But it's not only the people using the trails who are profiting.
There is research and documentation that shows that there is an economic benefit from trails. Businesses locating near trails. People make purchasing choices based on being on the trail. You buy something from a restaurant, you stop in at a shop.
Further south, on the old CSX Railroad property, Bloomington is developing what will be one of its biggest parks yet. The Beeline Trail will take people directly there. In 2006, Governor Mitch Daniels doubled state funding for trails from $10 million to $20 million and pledged to have every Hoosier living within 7.5 miles or 15 minutes of a trail within a decade. But recent budget woes have rendered that future uncertain. With nearly 2,000 miles of trail laid across the state, Mike Kutzko says it's still tough to try and convince people to use them.
I'm working on that. It's still a hard idea to, you know, a lot of people I work with may live out of town, and it's, you know, it's not as convenient as it is for me. But I just enjoy riding.
We'll take a look at the road ahead for people and pathways as we put trails in focus.
And joining me this evening is my co-host, Sarah Whitmire. Sarah, tell us a little bit about who you'll be speaking with.
Thanks, Dan. Coming up, we'll talk to Eric Oberg. He's a development officer with the Midwest Rails to Trails Conservancy. So we'll have that conversation in just a bit. For now, back to you, Stan.
Thanks, Sarah. And joining us here in the WTIU studios tonight, our City of Bloomington Parks and Recreation Director, Mick Renison, Director of Outdoor Recreation with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, Steve Morris, and Jeff Bransford, who's the Associate Director at the Epley Institute for Parks and Public Lands. I want to get a thought from each of you, and Jeff, we'll start with you on this first one. I think when people think of trails, they think of this place where you can exercise, you can run, you can ride your bike. I wonder if you think people have almost too narrow a definition of what trails can do and what they can even do for the community around them.
Well, you're right. Trails have been proven to have several different benefits to the community, and recreation is just one of those aspects. And as we just saw in the segment, a lot of people use that for health and other wellness sorts of activities. But in addition to that, they've been proven to stimulate economies by allowing areas for there to be increased public access to businesses and other special events. And especially here in Bloomington with the Beeline Trail, that's proven especially valuable with the farmers market and some of the other activities that they have in close proximity to the trail and at hub areas.
Steve, your thoughts are, your group helps to maintain and oversee the trails in Indiana. Are you seeing that people are thinking of trails as broadly as they should?
Well, I think it depends on where you're at. In a place like Indianapolis, where there's a pretty strong trail system, and like there is here in Bloomington, you're beginning to see people more and more out to improve their health, not just for what we thought we were going to develop them for was recreation, but we're seeing that more and more people are looking to these trails to improve their health. And at the same time, beginning to see that they can use these trails to get places that they need to go. You know, get to work, get to school, get to shopping. And so they're seeing these as modes of alternative transportation as well.
That's an interesting point, and that's something we actually came across in researching this show. And Mick, I wonder if people come up to you and say the same thing that they said to Alex Roy when he was out doing our story. He went out on a Saturday to the farmer's market and saw a family come up to him on a series of bicycles, and they had no idea what the farmer's market was, but they'd just come down the Beeline Trail, and all of a sudden they were, and they had not only used it as a transportation means, but they'd also used it as a way to get more in touch with their community. Are you seeing people who are still surprised to find the Beeline Trail as complete as it is?
Well, that, and I think that we also see this connection of people on trails that you might not have had this amenity not have been provided so that people can interact with their neighbors. Sometimes we don't even know who lives next to us, or in the Beeline's case, businesses that are located next to the trail. And as people have matriculated up and down the trail system, they've learned that there are a whole lot of different people using the trails. There are a lot of business opportunities. There are property values that are increasing, and there's just this interconnection that I think is integral to life, is to have some connection with people, and the trail systems we've seen provide that extra benefit.
Steve and then Jeff, the next question is for you. You heard in our open that Mitch Daniels a few years ago doubled the budget for trails and said he wanted everybody in Indiana to be living within close proximity to them within a short period of time. I have to say I went to a number of meetings at the State House this year. Trails didn't come up ever, as far as I can tell. Have we been forced to put trails on the back burner as far as their priority in Indiana?
We have not. The opposite is actually true. Trail development has really ramped up over the past couple of years. It's maybe been a little bit out of the limelight, but funding was increased, doubled, as the governor said he would do. And in fact, in some years, it was maybe tripled or even more than that. A lot of that was the result of federal stimulus funding that became available. The object was to have, the ultimate goal of our trails plan was to have a trail within 7.5 miles or 15 minutes of every Hoosier resident, and we are now at about 96% of that goal. So we're getting very close to actually accomplishing that goal.